Over to you, Tanveer.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. So, welcome to this RSCP academic webinar series. And today's theme is historical perspectives and World Anesthesia Day celebrations. As you know, World Anesthesia Day is coming on 16th October, and we have dedicated this webinar to the World Anesthesia Day. And sir, with your permission, can we start? Right. So, Indrani ma'am is not there, so I would seek your permission to start and invite Dr. Kaul sir first. Dr. Kaul sir, Dr. Tej K. Kaul sir, I would like you to say a few words before we start with the actual academic session. Sir is not.
Sir, you need to unmute yourself.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
want me to say something?
Yes, a few words on this webinar, which is being conducted.
Nice occasion to celebrate World Anesthesia Day. And although a couple of days earlier, but still, this is a great event. Every person should feel proud of this day when anesthesia was first really given. I must congratulate the organizers, Dr. Anju, Dr. Tanveer, Dr. Vivek, and all the speakers, the chairpersons, for having arranged this webinar. Best wishes. God bless you all. Long live RSCP. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your blessings. So, I would request Dr. Avtar Singh, sir, who was a past president RSCP, to please say a few words. Dr. Avtar Singh, sir, please.
Thank you, Dr. Tanveer. First of all, I'd like to wish you all a very, very happy World Anesthesia Day. And I pray that we unitedly work for the uplift of the society in the coming years ahead and face all the challenges scientifically and boldly and with a self-respect. So much is at stake. Things keep evolving, we keep meeting new challenges, and we have to devise and modify ourselves, our knowledge and our methodology to meet all those challenges. A recent example of pandemic of COVID-19 is a glaring example where we did our best. We could deliver the things, but exclusively because we worked hard for it and we were keen to do it. And it has really improved our image in the world, in the country and world over. I wish that we keep doing such things and keep improving the images of the society, of the anesthesiology specialty and the anesthesia people as such. And I hope that we need to be united and be friendly with each other and sure that we are concerned with each other, we care for each other, and we want welfare of each other. Thank you so much. I hope and best of the luck to everybody for the coming years. And on this day, I pray that everybody should stay healthy, should enjoy life, and that's all. Thank you, Tanveer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for your. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your words of wisdom and words of encouragement. I would request Dr. Naveen Malhotra, sir, to please say a few words.
Thank you, Tanveer. Heartiest congratulations to RSCP Ludhiana branch for conducting today's webinar. And the choice of topics is very nice. The selection of speakers is excellent. I must thank Dr. Anju Grewal and Dr. Tanveer and Dr. Kundra and team for giving chance to young speakers. So that's where we build our future. We build our future anesthesiologists we built our future academicians, we built our future clinicians. Definitely, they will be guided by very senior, very learned, very experienced chairpersons, to the likes of Dr. Professor Tej Kaur, Dr. Avtar Singh, Dr. Vivek, Dr. Anju Grewal, and moderation by Dr. Sandeep Pundra. Also, it's a nice decision on part of RSSAP to club it with World NSA Day celebrations, keeping in mind logistics that Saturday evening 6 to 8, if we would have conducted this webinar, majority of people would have been busy in their local get-togethers. So nice thought, Tanveer and Vishal and Madam Indrani. And best wishes to all of you. I know World Anesthesia greetings we will be extending between 7:30 to 8. So let the academics flow. Thank you for inviting me. Long live RSSAP.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And now I would like to request Dr. Anju Grewal ma'am to say a few words and formally welcome her.
Thank you so much, Tanveer. It's indeed a privilege to be welcoming all of you on the August occasion of World Anesthesia Day celebrations. It is, and more so since it is Ludhiana branch which is hosting this academic event along with the celebrations that start from today and will perhaps go on till Sunday. I welcome our patrons, Dr. Tej Kaur, Dr. Avtar Singh, our mentors, and the president of the Ludhiana City branch, Dr. Sunil Katyal sir, for gracing this occasion and bestowing their wise words on us. We also welcome Dr. Indrani, the president of RSSCP, Dr. Naveen Malhotra, the president-elect RSSCP, Dr. Vishal Singla, the secretary RSSCP, and all the August GC members of RSSCP. A very warm welcome to all the delegates without whom the webinar is incomplete and rather not at all feasible. So a very warm welcome to all of you to join us all on this evening. It is indeed a different type of a webinar. We have tried to pass the baton to our young, enthusiastic future generation anesthesiologists, and a perfect day to have them deliver their talks under the mentorship of stalwarts like Dr. Avtar Singh, Dr. Kaul, and all that galaxy of anesthesiologists that I see in the gallery. So with these words, I welcome you all, and I hope you will enjoy this evening. Any lacunae or shortcomings, on behalf of the entire team, I would take the responsibility and would beg forgiveness for the same. With these words, I hand over the mic back to Dr. Tanveer for the further proceedings.
Thank you, ma'am. So without wasting time, let's proceed to the academic session. For the first session, the chairpersons, I would like to invite the chairpersons, Dr. Anju Grewal ma'am. Dr. Anju Grewal ma'am is professor and head at Dayanand Medical College and Hospital, Ludhiana. She has a special interest in obstetric anesthesia, CPR, airway management, trauma anesthesia, and scientific communication. She is the vice president of RSSCP, former editor-in-chief of JOACP, National Secretary of Association of Obstetric Anesthesiologists India, Associate Editor, International Journal of Regional Anesthesia, Coordinator DMCH AHA Training Site for AHA, BLS and ACLS courses, and founder member of Airway Management Foundation, Chairperson Code Blue team at DMCNH, and she has numerous publications in index journals to her credit. Welcome, ma'am. The second chairperson for the session is Dr. Vivek Gupta, sir. He is a consultant at the Cardiac Anesthesia and Intensive Care Unit at Hero DMC Heart Institute, Ludhiana. His special areas of interest are ECMO, renal replacement in ICU, quality in healthcare system. He is the chairman, research and ethics committee of Southwest Asian African chapter of Extracorporeal Life Support Organization. He is the recipient of National Award of IMA for outstanding performance, and he has numerous publications in index journals to his credit. I welcome you, sir, and over to you for the next proceedings.
Thank you so much, Tanveer, for such a generous introduction of both of us. Am I audible?
Yes, yes, ma'am, you are.
So with this, if with the permission of my co-chairperson, Dr. Vivek, I would like to start the first session and introduce the first speaker. The talk for today is something that was very dear to all of us, and because this is something that we all falter a lot, is holiday cigar formula for fluid administration in children. Is it time to move on? And for this, I first invite Dr. Kamya Bansal, who is a senior resident with us in the Department of Anesthesia. She also happens to be our alumni, and she is a fellow of the Association of Regional Anesthesia India. And in addition, she has publications, which is heartening to know that at this age, they have thought about research and have moved into it. A life member of RSSCP, she would be delivering the talk as a pro speaker on this motion. I hand over the mic to Dr. Kamya to. Over to you, Kamya.
Good evening, everyone. So the talk for today is holiday cigar formula. Is my slide visible?
Yes, it is.
Yes, yes, with
I'll go ahead then. Thank you, sir. Today's talk is on holiday cigar formula for perioperative pediatric IV fluid therapy. Is it time to move on? I will be speaking for the motion. Now, first of all, let's look at the objectives of perioperative fluid therapy. One, it is given to maintain or re-establish normal physiological state of normovolemia so as to replace the perioperative deficits and provide maintenance therapy. Second, to maintain normal tissue perfusion, normal metabolic function, and normal electrolytes and acid-base status. Another objective is to counteract the effect of anesthetics. Now, let's look at the changes in the total body water and extracellular fluid in pediatrics. The extracellular fluid in a preterm neonate is about 70% of the body weight, and it falls to about 40% in a neonate, in a term neonate, and 20% in a 3-year-old child, and thereafter. So as the organ development, maturation, and growth occurs, extracellular fluid volume decreases, and so does the need for maintenance fluid. The other physiological concerns in children are: one, immature renal physiology. They have inability to concentrate the urine, thus leading to higher insensible water losses. Second, there's varying neuroendocrine control due to high renin, angiotensinogen, aldosterone system activity, and ADH secretion at birth. And postnatally, there is aldosterone resistance. Thus, both of these factors lead to water retention and sodium loss in urine. Thirdly, there is higher metabolic rate. Fourth, it's always a debate between hypoglycemia versus hyperglycemia. Hypoglycemia due to limited glycogen stores versus hyperglycemia due to stress response. So in 1957, Holiday and Cigar came up with the formula for the maintenance water requirement for the in the perioperative period. Their formula was based on the healthy infants and children. The basis was water maintenance needs parallels the energy expenditure. So 1 ml of water is required to burn 1 kilocalorie as per their formula. Based on this, a 4-to-1 formula, as we all have been practicing so far, was derived based upon the energy expenditure, which led to a use of hypotonic electrolyte solution of 0.18% saline with 5% dextrose for the maintenance infusions. Now, holiday cigar formula has been religiously practiced across the world for over 50 years. But it is high time that this historical concept be challenged. So let's look at why this debate now. We'll talk about the energy estimates first. Revisiting the holiday cigar formula, This was based on energy needs of healthy infants and children. Secondly, the energy needs included the resting energy expenditure plus the energy expenditure for growth and activities, which is almost about 50%. The resting energy expenditure is closely related to the fat-free mass, which comes from the muscles and the 4 major organs: heart, liver, kidney, and brain. These 4 organs make up 7% of the total body mass and consume about 80% of the resting energy expenditure. Also, in acute disease or during surgery, energy expenditure on activities and growth to achieve that energy expenditure goal is very unrealistic. As was seen in one of the studies, the actual energy requirement in hospitalized patient is closer to a basal metabolic rate of approximately 50 to 60 kilocalories per kg per day. Thus, holiday cigar formula does not take into account the reduced energy expenditure in sick children or children under anesthesia, thus overestimating the maintenance fluid requirements. Let's look at the water requirement. Firstly, due to the non-osmotic stimuli for ADH release, such as surgical stress, drugs, anesthetics, there is limitation of renal water excretion and free water retention. Secondly, insensible water losses are overcalculated with the holiday cigar formula, which round up to about 34 ml per kg per day. However, in experimental studies, it has been seen the insensible water losses from skin are approximately 7 ml per kg per day, from respiratory tract 5 ml per kg per day, and other factors such as use of humidifiers may further reduce these losses. Also, there's increased endogenous water production in acute diseases, which is not taken into account by the holiday cigar method. Thus, this formula overestimates the water requirement in children, leading to iatrogenic fluid overload, especially in acute respiratory distress syndrome. Let's look at the electrolyte requirements. Now, holiday cigar formula infuses the hypotonic solution, which contains sodium in the range of 3 milliequivalents per 100 kilocalories per day, which is based on their human and cow milk studies. So the fluid which is being infused is hypotonic, whereas the more sodium is required for hospitalized children due to 2 factors. One is desalination. Due to aldosterone resistance, sodium gets lost in urine, leading to desalination. And due to the effect of vasopressin, there's retention of the free water. Thus, holiday cigar underestimates sodium requirement in children, again leading to fluid overload and hyponatremia. There have been several studies which report hospital-acquired hyponatremia in healthy children after elective surgery with hypotonic solutions. Now, adverse events reported did include more than 50 deaths and incidence being as high as 50%. Sick children or children coming for surgeries present with symptoms such as headache, nausea, vomiting, weakness, and lethargy, which can easily confound the early diagnosis of hyponatremia. And respiratory arrest was observed to be first symptom in some patients. So the use of hypotonic solution in combination with stress-induced increased secretion of ADH perioperatively leads to hyponatremic encephalopathy, permanent neurological damage and death, and fluid overload. Even though the NICE guidelines still follow the holiday cigar formula, they do recommend that fluids be restricted by 50 to 80% in view of risk of water retention based on non-osmotic ADH secretion in children. In a recent study, on 77 children aged 5 months to 2 years, which were undergoing oromaxillofacial surgery under general anesthesia, it was found that isotonic solution administration enables avoidance of serum sodium reduction and serum glucose elevation in infants, and may therefore enhance patient safety in comparison with the hypotonic solutions. In another recent study in pediatric surgical patients, it was found that unless complicated by a hypertonic state, current evidence strongly supports the use of isotonic solutions for maintenance therapy. This was the review article. Now let's look at the glucose requirement. First of all, who needs glucose? Premature infants, small neonates, children on parenteral nutrition, or the ones with liver disease. All of these have either a higher metabolic rate or low glycogen reserves due to developmental reasons or the disease. Another set of patients are the children coming to operating theaters in a catabolic state due to prolonged fasting times. Now, it has been recommended that the children beyond neonatal age with short preoperative and postoperative fasting times and the ones that undergo short procedures do not require glucose supplementation. We have seen that it has been observed that addition of 5% dextrose to salt solution as per the Holiday-Segar recommendation, in addition to the perioperative stress and the consequent release of counter-regulatory hormones, hyperglycemia occurs, which further leads to impaired metabolism of excess glucose. Now, in presence of ischemia or hypoxia, hyperglycemia would lead to lactate accumulation, reduction in the intracellular pH, and severely compromised cell function and cell death. Hyperglycemia also induces osmotic diuresis, leading to dehydration and electrolyte disturbances. It also worsens the neurologic outcomes and leads to increased morbidity and mortality. In a multi-center trial, it was observed that neither hypoglycemia nor hyperglycemia was documented after the use of balanced salt solution with 1% dextrose infusion. In another study, it was found that during the infusion of 2 or 2.5% dextrose solution, the rise in the blood sugar levels was to a lesser extent than as observed with the 5% solutions. Another study reported that 1% dextrose containing solution promotes catabolism, insulin resistance, rebound hyperglycemia, and acidosis. So they recommended use of 2 to 4% dextrose containing fluids, which is again at least less than the 5% concentration, which was traditionally being used over the years. So my worthy opponent might be concerned about the hypoglycemia in children, especially the neonates. So I would like to address this issue. Incidence of preoperative hypoglycemia is about 0 to 2.5%, and that too in children with prolonged fasting times beyond 8 hours, which is again well beyond the ASA recommendation. To sum up my argument, I would like to say the Holiday-Segar formula is based on healthy children's energy expenditure needs. It cannot be applied to sick children or children under anesthesia due to reduced resting energy expenditure, alterations in the fluid balance, renal sodium and water handling due to the effect of ADH. The Holiday-Segar formula overestimates the calorie requirement and hence the fluid requirement. It overestimates insensible water losses. It overestimates glucose requirement and underestimates the sodium requirement. Thus, our recommendation would be to administer a balanced electrolyte solution with osmolality closer to the physiological range, which has sodium, potassium, and chloride in the required dosages, and dextrose if indicated to be in the range of 1 to 2.5% concentration. So, metallic anions such as lactate or acetate act as bicarbonate precursors to prevent hyperchloremic acidosis, as is seen with large volumes of infusions of normal saline. Second recommendation would be the liberalization of fasting guidelines. As per the recent fasting guidelines, clear fluids are to be allowed up till 1 to 2 hours prior to surgery. Thus, it is high time we move on. Thank you.
Excellent discussion, talk, Dr. Kamya. So to speak against the motion, I'm inviting Dr. Khushbu. She is a senior resident at Dayanand Medical College and Hospital, Ludhiana, and her area of interest is regional anesthesia, airway management, and trauma. So Dr. Khushbu will be talking against the motion.
Good evening, everyone. Holiday-Segar formula for perioperative pediatric IV fluid therapy. Is it time to move on? I will be speaking against this motion. So counter the argument against the holiday cigar, I would like to revisit this formula, more popularly known as 4-to-1 rule. So what holiday cigar did was, they divided the body weight of children into 3 categories and suggested to give fluid at the rate of 4 ml per kg per hour for the first 10 kg body weight, followed by 2 ml per kg per hour for the next 10 kgs, with additional 1 ml per kg per hour above 20 kg weight. So some of the salient features of their landmark publication are that they calculated the average physiological losses, which came out to be 100 ml per 100 kilocalorie metabolized in a day. Or in simpler terms, 1 ml of water is required to burn 1 kilocalorie of energy. So extrapolating this fluid requirement to weight-based categories, we get this 4-to-1 rule. Holiday and Cigar also recommended using hypotonic electrolyte solution with 5% glucose based on the electrolyte content of the human milk. So what advantages does this holiday cigar formula offers? First of all, it simplified the bedside calculations for early maintenance fluid requirements in the hospitalized children, which were earlier being done based on the tables and nomograms, which was a very cumbersome practice. This is a picture showing the nomogram used to calculate the fluid requirements based on the body surface area. The second excellent thing they did was to base their calculation on the metabolic rate. Neonates and infants have about 1.5 to 2 times higher metabolic rate compared to the adults. So, fluid requirements calculated according to the metabolic rate are more accurate. This table shows the relation between the body weight and the metabolic rate and accordingly calculate the daily and hourly fluid requirement. The calculation of water losses. In order to maintain the homeostasis, losses must be replaced adequately. So calculating water loss accurately becomes very important, which was simplified by the Holiday and Cigar. So this table shows the calculations done by Holiday and Cigar, in which they calculate the insensible water losses, urinary water losses, and they also subtract the water of oxidation generated during metabolism and get an average value of 100 ml 100 ml fluid utilized to metabolize 100 kilocalories of energy. Then the addition of the dextrose. Glucose addition to fluid supports the brain metabolism and reduces body protein catabolism and ketosis due to fasting, which is well supported by the literature. Then the immature renal physiology. The urine concentrating ability is low at birth, and with water deprivation as occurs during the fasting hours, urine can concentrate to only 600 to 700 milliosmoles per kg because of the hypotonicity of the renal medulla. So this makes the children prone to dehydration. Also, the tubular mechanisms mature to adult levels only by 12 to 18 months of age. So till that age, they have a limited ability to handle the high sodium load. So use of hypotonic fluid as suggested by Holiday and Cigar is pertinent to protect against hypernatremia and its harmful neurological sequelae. So considering all these facts, Holiday and Cigar approach has been religiously used by anesthesiologists and pediatricians worldwide for administering intravenous fluid therapy in children for the last 50 years. Even societies like Association of Pediatric Anesthesiologists of Great Britain and Ireland and NICE guidelines, they continue to recommend Holiday Cigar approach for formulating intravenous pediatric therapy for the lack of concrete evidence to change their recommendations. Now coming on to the concerns that were raised by my colleague. The first concern that she raises is the overestimation of energy expenditure and insensible water loss by Holiday Cigar formula. But does it really lead to overhydration? As we all know that neonates and infants have large body surface to weight ratio, higher respiratory rate, more extracellular fluid volume, limited renal ability to concentrate, greater insensible water loss from the skin and high blood flow. So they can become clinically dehydrated in a very short period of time. So giving them less fluid than what was calculated, what was suggested by Holliday and Segar formula can lead them to hypovolemia and its harmful effects. The second concern is about the hyponatremia with the use of hypotonic maintenance fluid. But is it really so? A study by Steele et al. Noted post-operative hyponatremia occurring within 24 hours of induction of anesthesia, even when only near isotonic fluids were infused. The reason they suggest is the excretion of large volume of hypertonic saline, excretion of large volume of hypertonic urine in response to excessive amount of isotonic fluid infused intraoperatively. Kromek et al. Also found a high incidence of about 20% hyponatremia occurring with isotonic fluid usage. So considering these facts, these facts suggest that there is some other mechanism behind the occurrence of the iatrogenic hyponatremia. One of the reason could be the large amount of volume infused. In many of the studies that relate hyponatremia with hypotonic fluids, maintenance therapy was often ordered in excess of what was recommended. In one report, 2 physicians gave about more than 50% recommended maintenance fluid to 16 of their 23 patients. This implicates volume overload rather than the use of hypotonic fluids for the occurrence of the iatrogenic hyponatremia. Then there are other factors other than the tonicity of the fluid that contribute to the increased risk of iatrogenic hyponatremia. In a study by Karendeng et al., they found that surgical causes and underlying medical illnesses have a stronger impact on the development of hyponatremia than the tonicity of the maintenance fluids administered. They found that hyponatremia was common regardless of the maintenance fluid tonicity. Then the risk of hyperglycemia with usage of 5% dextrose. But what about the hypoglycemia-induced brain damage? As my opponent has suggested that there is only 0 to 2.5% risk of hypoglycemia, but 2.5% is also a very high number considering the pediatric population. Then the children admitted to the OR, they are often in a catabolic state due to the prolonged fasting. And their high metabolic rates and low glycogen reserve, this all make them prone to going to hypoglycemia. So if we use dextrose-free isotonic solution in such instances, this can prove detrimental due to adverse effects of undiagnosed hypoglycemia on their developing brain and CNS. So concluding my argument in favor of Holliday and Segar, I would like to say that Holliday and Segar approach is based on sound physiological principles, and it has been successfully used for a long period of time. Concrete data to refute or condemn its usage is still not available, and the concerns of hyponatremia seems to be unfounded, as there are reports that suggest hyponatremia can occur even with the use of isotonic fluids. And lastly, denying glucose to neonates and young children is unjustified in wake of reports of hypoglycemia-induced brain damage. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khushbu, for an excellent, contesting a very difficult topic. At this juncture, would like to invite Dr. Sandeep Kundra to give us a small overview and a summary of, as a moderator of this highly debated topic. Over to you, Dr. Sandeep Kundra.
Thank you, ma'am.
Also, I
Thank,
would like to request the audience to please put in their questions in the chat box. Over to you, Kundra, please.
thank you, ma'am. Is my screen visible, ma'am?
Yes, it
Yes.
is visible. Can you put it on full? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, respected chairpersons. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the office bearers of National RSACP to provide me with an opportunity to be on this session. Now, Dr. Khushbu and Dr. Kamya have both very nicely elaborated on this rather tricky topic, and both have justified their position on this motion very well. The way that they have presented would make any accomplished speaker proud. So congratulations to both the young guns. My aim here, my job here is to summarize whatever they have already discussed and try to do a balancing act. Now, Holliday Cigar formula, as they have discussed, has been used for almost 50 years and has served us well. Now, IV fluid therapy is almost synonymous with perioperative period, with almost all patients receiving fluids in the perioperative period. Whenever we prescribe IV fluid therapy, we focus on two things. It goes without saying, that is what type of fluid that we aim to give and the quantity or the volume of fluid to be administered. Now, in our day-to-day practice, we often see patients, we often observe that especially the pediatric patients come to OR with an infusion of DN/2 or DN/4, or sometimes isolight piece infusion already on. And the volume, both have discussed very nicely, is according to 4:1. What we are discussing is this traditional practice all right, or do we need to change this traditional practice? We must understand that this traditional practice was based on the following three things. The first was that traditionally the pediatric patients would come to OR being fasting for 6 hours or more. The result was that there would be fluid deficit. And according to Holliday Cigar formula, and later on the modification by Fruman, that this deficit we have to replace over initial 2 to 3 hours. But recently, we all know that fasting guidelines have been revised and allowing clear fluids for up to 1 to 2 hours prior to surgery. This means that children are no longer coming to OR in a fluid deficit state that they used to. Second, that traditional therapy, the practice was based on major concern for hypoglycemia, that pediatric patients are prone to hypoglycemia, thus they need dextrose containing fluid. But now the recent evidence has accumulated and proven beyond doubt that this concern probably is unfounded in most patients. That there are certain exceptions which Kamya has already discussed, like premature infants or children who are on hyperalimentation diet or suffering from hepatic diseases. But generally speaking, the patients, they have sufficient glycogen reserves, and hypoglycemia is an uncommon occurrence. In fact, just like adults, we need to guard against hyperglycemia because that is also harmful. Third concern, which was the basis for this traditional practice, was that the pediatric patients have got a decreased renal tubular concentrating capability. Thus, we need to give them hypotonic fluid. However, this concept disregarded the fact that children also have non-osmotic ADH release, making them prone to fluid retention. They cannot excrete free water. Thus, hypotonic fluids have a great potential to cause hyponatremia. Now, the main problem that I see with Holliday Cigar formula is that it tries to administer single fluid therapy, single type of fluid to all patients. And we all know that one size does not fit all. So if we have to move away from, the next question should be, if we have to move away from Holiday-Segar formula, what should we do? How should we approach the IV fluid therapy in pediatric patients? The first and the foremost thing is that we should follow the ASA guideline, the recent ASA guidelines on fasting, and we should allow clear fluids for up to 1 to 2 hours prior to surgery, preferably the carbohydrate containing fluids, clear fluids. Then second, for short duration surgery, if these guidelines are followed, actually there is no need for IV fluids altogether. We must keep an IV line in situ, but regularly we do not need to administer IV fluids for short duration surgery. And in the post-operative period, we should aim to institute oral fluids as soon as possible. Now, if we have to administer IV fluid therapy in children, we have the German guidelines. These were published by the Association of Scientific Medical Societies in Germany and published in journal Pediatric Anesthesia. They recommend that glucose containing fluids are not required except for neonates, especially the premature neonates, or the category of patient that we have already discussed, or for long duration surgeries. Even in these patients, subgroup of patients, only 1 to 2.5% of dextrose is actually sufficient to prevent hypoglycemia. And they have moved away from hypotonic solution to isotonic balanced salt solution. This is what is recommended by these guidelines. Other than these German guidelines, in addition, these if for some reason the patients are fasting for more than 6 hours, the IV fluid therapy should be based on the degree of dehydration. It is recommended that for every 1% dehydration, we should administer 10 ml per kg. All children should receive an initial bolus of 20 ml per kg, whereas neonates should receive an initial bolus of 10 ml per kg over initial 20 minutes. This bolus can be given for a maximum of up to 40 to 60 ml per kg while evaluating the response to fluid therapy. Then we need to individualize fluid therapy depending on the patient and the type of surgical procedure. For example, for superficial surgery where there is not much blood loss, we can give 2 ml per kg per hour. For major surgery, 4 ml per kg per hour. Then for abdominal surgery where peritoneum is opened, up to 5 to 10 ml per kg per hour as the maintenance fluid therapy for managing the insensible losses. In addition, all the ongoing losses need to be assessed and replaced accordingly. Now, in addition to these German guidelines, if we see the other guidelines, for example, Association of Pediatric Anesthesiologists guidelines, though they still recommend using Holiday-Segar formula, but they have moved on from hypotonic solutions to isotonic fluids. NICE guidelines, they suggest that we need to reduce fluid administration by 50 to 70% due to non-osmotic ADH secretion. The main thing is we should titrate our therapy according to the patient. Instead of trying to fit one size for everybody, our therapy needs to be tailor-made. Wherever available, we should use advanced monitoring techniques. If transthoracic echocardiography is available, we can check for IVC diameter. Then, or if in the absence of these advanced monitoring techniques, we can use clinical parameters to guide fluid therapy. So the crux, if I have to put it like that, is that IV fluid should be administered only when indicated. We should titrate fluid therapy to requirement, and there is no doubt that we need to move away from hypotonic fluids and administer isotonic fluids. Thank you very much.
Wonderful discussion, Dr. Sandeep. You have done your job very nicely to prepare your speakers as well as a moderator. You have made a good balance in this, and as you rightly said, we all agree that one side doesn't fit for all. So you have to individualize your fluid therapy, which will take so many things in consideration besides the child's clinical condition. How much is the fasting duration and what surgery is going on? So all has to be taken in consideration. Now, house is open for discussion, questions. Is there any question besides
I
few
think-
comments?
Yeah, I think we'll first invite Dr. Rakhi Goyal. She's a pediatric anesthesiologist and she also runs the fellowship program of the AIPA. Am I visible? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Dr. Rakhi, over to you for your comments. And I think there are 2 questions in the chat box.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Anju. It was such a pleasure to hear both the speakers and Dr. Kundra. I mean, there's nothing that they left, but I thought since this topic is so close to my heart and I must share my experience if the audience is okay with it. So last 5-6 years, since the time this German guidelines came, the moment I read them, I stopped using holiday cigar. In any case, for so many years, it was itching that it's not making sense. How can one, first, there's too much of math in it. In a simple case like inguinal hernia, if I start calculating, believe me, the case gets over before my fluid calculation. And we've done biology. We are not mathematicians. We're likely to make mistakes. And I don't think there is room for much mistakes. That's one. So German guidelines are very simple. They are multiples of 10. 10 ml per kg plus 10 ml plus 10 plus 10. Very simple calculation. Now, second, it's a dynamic process of fluid administration. Suppose there is a simple case of laparotomy, intestinal obstruction, a child coming for laparotomy. Now, when the anesthesia is being administered, the first, I would say 15-20 minutes, when the surgeons are just cleaning, draping, positioning, we don't need to give too much of fluid. But when the gut is out, the entire intestines are out, that's the time I need to increase the rate of my fluid administration. So it's a dynamic thing. At different times of the surgery, the rate of fluid administration is required to be different. So it can't be one thing. Second, the NPO guidelines have really made a difference. So the Americans still say 1 hour prior to surgery, you could have clear fluids, whereas the Europeans are actually following the Scandinavian. If you see the 10-year data, they say sip and send. They give water and send the patient to the theater. So what I have been following for the last 5 years is we encourage our children to have fluids. We tell them water. Those who understand, we tell them apple juice, coconut water. So we insist, we encourage and insist that please have until 2 hours before surgery, please have. And ask your surgeon to tell the same. So, when the surgeon tells this and when you tell during the PAC, the mother actually feeds them with some fluids. So they come less cranky. And a lot of times they come quite happily to the theaters, which is what we want. So it works in many ways, even for PONV and all. So it covers a lot. And then your fluid administration becomes easy because they are not dehydrated. And about the glucose as well. For all surgeries, we do not add glucose. It's only in neonates, premature, as Dr. Kundra said, only there. And there also we check the sugar. If you're using Cordal, then maybe in the first fill, maybe 1%, otherwise not required for routine surgeries. Choice of fluid. Ringer works very well in our setting, cheap and best. But if you have Plasma-Lite, Cabi-Lite, they're considered to be better. For most surgeries, not required. Ringer serves well for pediatrics. So we should understand neonates are different from general pediatrics. So the special considerations are basically all that sodium and sugar and all. It's for neonates, not for routine pediatric surgeries. So I would say that everybody should read the German guidelines. They are published in Pediatric Anesthesia 2017. And they have a very logical method. And once you read that, there's no way you're going back to holiday cigar. So, and it's worked well for more than 5 years. So it should work well, I feel. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share my views. Thank you.
Thank you, Raki. It was indeed very well summed out, summary of what we all had discussed today, and beautifully said. Indeed, the guidelines need to be read by all of us. And if there is one take-home message, and I see a lot of my postgraduates and postgraduates from other places, is that at least stop using it for adults. I see most of them using it for adults as well, which is, really, I don't know. I don't even have words for it. I really get annoyed by when I look at that. So, and of course, we need to look at children in different age groups and with individualized therapies, as you very rightly pointed out. I see two questions in the chat box. One is about, I think, desalination. Our speakers did talk about desalination. Who would like to take the question? The question is about what a desalination. They want a little bit more clarity onto it. Kushbu, can you take this question?
So in response to circulating excessive amount of ADH, the RAS system becomes resistant. So the urine continues to lose a large amount of sodium. This is called desalination. So as we know, during the surgery due to stress, there is excessive amount of ADH being secreted. So that leads to water retention, but also leads to resistance of the RAS system. That causes the continual loss of sodium into the urine. This is what desalination is. I think I
probably, if there's anything else you would like to, so it basically works well with both the arguments. But if I were to look at the argument of disregarding Holiday and Cigar, the issue is once there is desalination in process, administering hypotonic solutions will aggravate the problem. So I think that is another point for that. I think there's a question for Dr. Kundra. It's about how do we calculate the percentage of dehydration? I think you alluded to it in your talk.
Yeah, actually, what they mention is that we need to know the weight loss that a patient has suffered because of dehydration. So let us say a child is, 10 kgs. Before coming to surgery, the baseline weight was, let us say, 10 kg. And you weigh the child now it is 9 kg. So the water loss is 1 kg. That is 10% for this patient. So that becomes 10% dehydration. So it is the percentage of dehydration is actually the percentage of weight loss, so to say.
Thank you, Dr. Kundra. Dr. Vivek.
I think a wonderful discussion, and we close the session. Now, for moving further, over to Dr. Tanvir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. For the next session, it's my privilege to invite the chairpersons. All the three chairpersons are, everybody will agree with me, teachers of teachers. And the three stalwarts of field of anesthesia. First, I would like to invite the respected Dr. Tej K. Kaul, sir. He's retired as a professor and head from Department of Anesthesia, Dayanand Medical College and Hospital. And he has been associated with many associations and many organizations, and he has numerous publications and index journals to his credit. Welcome, sir. Sir is not well also, but he has kindly accepted a request to be the chairperson. Thank you so much, sir. Welcome. Next chairperson, I would like to invite Dr. Avtar Singh, sir. He is retired as professor of anesthesia from Medical College and Hospital, and is past president of RSACP with numerous publications and to his credit. Welcome, sir. And next chairperson, Dr. Sunil Katyal, sir. He's also retired as professor and head from Dayanand Medical College and Hospital, Ludhiana. Sir is the ex-vice president of ISA National, also associated with actively associated with the Indian Medical Association and with numerous publications, and happens he was the head of the department during my PG days. So welcome, sir. all the three stalwarts, and over to you, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, you are.
Everybody. I am thankful to organizers, and it is my privilege to sit as a co-chairperson with my respected teacher, Professor Tej K. Kaul, and my very dear colleague, Dr. Avtar Singh. Now it is we are supposed to speak on World Anesthesia Day. Dr. Devika is speaker, I think.
Yes, sir.
So let's invite Dr. Devika to start the session.
I think Devika need to be made the host. She's not the host right now.
She is not supposed to speak.
She's supposed to speak. Tanveer, you'll have to make her the host so that she can share her slides. So she's supposed to speak, but she's not the host.
Okay.
Devika, can you please share your slides?
No, I have not followed it.
Host disabled the screen sharing.
Yeah, just a minute.
Make Devika co-host.
Already made, sir, made. So you start sharing, Dr. Devika. You can share the screen.
Just a moment. Can you take a few moments, please? Just a moment.
Permit me, Devika, I can share the slides from my end and you can speak from there.
Yeah, ma'am, shall I send you?
I have the old slides of yours.
Just a moment, ma'am. I'll just mail you in a moment.
Yes, sir.
So till the time I think Devika sends in her slides and she shares this with all of us, we can perhaps take a few questions on a very pertinent topic of fluid therapy if there are from our postgraduates. I see Rushal up there and Nitika and some of my students up there. So if you have questions, please feel free to ask. This is an excellent platform here right now for all of you to, ask your questions, because this is one of the most thorny issues in the operating room when we are dealing with pediatric children. Ayushi, you're also there. We can have a few comments and also questions from all of you.
कीड़े वाले जेडे जंग बारिश के टाइम पे आ जाते हैं वो वाले
So Dr. Sood has a question. How to calculate fluid replacement in a 1 year old?
ये लाड़ के
We have all of you, please muted. Yeah, thank you. 1 year old undergoing laparotomy, expected time 2 hours at a peripheral center where minimal monitoring equipment is there. Dr. Kundra, are you there? Dr. Rakhi or Dr. Kundra, anybody who would like to take this question?
Yes, Dr. Anjal. I'll just see the question. It's for the laparotomy, right? 1 year old undergoing laparotomy for 2 hours at a peripheral center. So we really don't need any invasive monitoring in a 1 year old if there are no other comorbidities, especially no major cardiac condition. Then depending on what fluids were given, obviously it was, the child must have been on IV fluids before the surgery. So we are not looking at a deficit, and we start at 10 ml per kg per hour. The moment they start the laparotomy, I would escalate it to 20 ml per kg per hour till the time the surgery is on. And if there is any bleeding, I would see what the pre-op HB was and try to replace it with blood. Otherwise, increase from 20 to 30 or maybe 40 ml per kg per hour for that duration and come down to 10 again once they close. So monitoring is standard. Monitoring is good enough. We see the pulse pressure variation in our plethysmograph, and that gives a good indication. Plus the urine output gives a very good indication. So try to put a urometer in children, because those big bags don't really tell us the exact amount. And if you don't have a urometer, then empty out the urine every 1 hour and expect at least 1 ml per kg per hour. If it's less, you can increase your fluid. And heart rate is a good measure, but then you should see what analgesia you are giving. If you're using a regional block plus opioids or only opioids plus PCM, so it should not be the pain to misguide you for the fluid, the tachycardia, and accordingly the fluid. So that's about it. No extra monitoring should be required.
Madam, good evening. Rakhi, Madam, good evening. Dr. Mayank here.
Hi, Dr. Mayank. Good evening.
Madam, can I ask a few small
Please,
queries?
please. Please.
Madam, in pediatric age group, if there is a sepsis component, then what is the current recommendation? Like in 2021 guidelines, they have not specified about the pediatric age group. They have shifted from the normal crystalloid. They have specified that balanced salt solution is the fluid of choice.
Yes.
In the adult age group. Now, what about the pediatric age group? Like, what is the current recommendation?
So any patient, any child in sepsis would come from the pediatric ICU. And we are not talking neonates, right? We're talking pediatric. NEC for neonates is a different thing. So if it's a PICU child,
that's a different thing.
Child would already be on IV fluids, and you should know if there are inotropes in place or not. So usually the surgeons wait for the child to stabilize.
Right.
And we always arrange blood.
Okay.
And borderline cases, we keep blood. So blood is better than crystalloids intraoperatively, because there will be some blood loss.
Right.
So I wouldn't load a septic child with crystalloids. I would rather give blood slowly. and I would give a fresher blood. Usually blood banks send you old blood, the one that is about to expire. That has a lot of potassium. So in children, don't give blood fast, and don't push blood for sure. You may create hyperkalemia. So keeping all this in mind, have a more balanced and a slow and steady administration of blood or blood products or fluid, and see if you need inotropes. If the child is on inotropes, then invasive monitoring is better. Maybe it's already placed in the PICU before shifting to the OT. So an arterial line and a central venous monitoring should be in place with inotropes. And so that's
if suppose
about it.
the blood pressure is not coming up with norepinephrine as well as what we are blood given, is there any role of vasopressin in the case of pediatric age group?
I have never used. And generally they optimize and send. So the right kind of antibiotics in preoperative period would settle the patient. They're not like adults where 2-3 inotropes are running and still they're coming for surgery. No, we generally optimize them well and then bring for surgery.
Right. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I think if there are no further questions, we can perhaps ask Devika. I think she's already ready to present her talk. Devika, you need to unmute yourself. We are unable to hear you.
Is my screen visible to all?
Yes.
I'm so sorry for the delay. Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Devika from Ludhiana. On this very day, 16th October 1846, today I'm going to talk about the history of anesthesia, which we celebrate as World Anesthesia Day. On this day, about a century ago, the seed of anesthesia was sowed. In that remembrance, the World Anesthesia Day is celebrated every year. The saying by a great American politician, Roosevelt, the more you know about the past, the better you are prepared for the future. So let's ponder upon the history of anesthesia with this. This is the picture depicting the anesthesia, which used to be a couple of centuries ago. The situation like this prevailed in older times. It was very gross and the mortality rates were quite high. Before 1846, the foundations of anesthesia was based on the agents and methods which were quite crude and ruthless. The turning point in the history of anesthesiology came up on this very day in 1846, when before a large audience in Massachusetts Hospital, Boston, Morton demonstrated the use of an agent named lithion, which was actually ether vapor, to a patient named Gilbert Abbott, who was having a vascular neck tumor to be removed by a surgeon named Collins Warrens. It showed no sign of distress, and a new era had dawned then. It was a heroic effort, as at that time, there was no airway device, no oxygen flow system, no breathing circuit, no intravenous access, no pulse oximetry or capnography. In such a big vascular tumor, there was no blood pressure monitoring, and it was a shared airway. The place where the demonstration was done is still preserved as a monument known as Ether Dome. This priceless gift to humanity went from an operating theater of Boston, and this man to whom the world owes is T.G. Morton. It is rightly engraved on Morton's tomb, before whom in all times surgery was agony. After whom pain in surgery was averted and annulled, and since whom science has a control over the pain. As we all know that 18th century was the beginning of scientific advancement, and all the bright minds had started scratching their gray matters. In the same line, James Simpson came up with the idea to use agent chloroform for pain relief in labor, but his idea did not gain much attention. It was in 1853 when Dr. John Snow, the first official anesthetist, used it on Queen Victoria during the birth of Prince Leopold, when it gained acknowledgement by the masses. As you can see in the picture, he just used a simple silk handkerchief to give chloroform to the Queen. The era of regional anesthesia took a turn in 1884 when one fine day, while demonstrating the effect of tasting cocaine, Carl realized that it was what was all that was needed. And the trials progressed quickly to clinical use, and he used topical cocaine for surgical anesthesia. Halsted developed the use of cocaine for local anesthesia. In 1898, August Bayer gave the new direction to regional anesthesia. He administered the first spinal anesthesia to a patient in Royal Surgical Hospital of University of Kiel, who was posted for surgical resection of left ankle. It was severely infected with tuberculosis and had dreaded adverse effects related to general anesthesia during the previous operation. August Bayer got the credit by administering around 3 ml of 0.5% cocaine intrathecally. He also pioneered the intravenous regional anesthesia in 1908, which we today know as by the name of Bayer's block. The gaseous anesthesia apparatus came up in 1912 when James Tolley Gwamney used nitrous oxygen and ether for the first time. But the story of introduction of nitrous had come up far before that time. The lower picture depicts the incidents when Horace Wells, who was a local dentist in USA, was attending a show. Then he realized that a young man named Samuel had injured his shin after inhalation of a gas, and there was no apparent discomfort. That gave him idea to ameliorate pain via this wonder gas, and that gas was nitrous oxide. This is the Boyle's machine invented by Edmund J. Boyle. As young ones, we all must have come across the use of it even once in a while. See how rudimentary it used to be. But now there is a huge transformation, and the anesthesia workstation that we are using today is much more equipped and far better. The idea and the usage of endotracheal tubes was a change in 1920. It provided a secured and safe anesthesia practice by Evan Magel and Rockham. In the same year, Arthur Goodell gave the stages of anesthesia also to us. The concept of balanced anesthesia, comprising of a triad of hypnosis, analgesia, and areflexia, which we are using in today's time with so much zeal and enthusiasm, had developed long time in around 1925 by Sir John Lundy. This was the changing point. In 1943, Mackintosh discovered the curved laryngoscopy. This laryngoscope was originally designed to facilitate intubation in unparalyzed patients, and it became universally adopted by the anesthetic community. This was a great gift since it led to a better exposure of the larynx by lifting the valleculae and better view due to the scope availability. Before this, the blades were straight and lacked the scope facility. And the subsequent decades witnessed the newer agents. Thiopentone came into use in 1934. Then the release of an hypnotic and sedative propofol was a major advancement in 1989. One of the triad of the balanced anesthesia, areflexia, got its direction after the introduction of neuromuscular blocking agents in 1942. Curare was a milestone in anesthesia. Later on came up succinylcholine, then came up pancuronium, vecuronium, rocuronium, and etracurium and cesetra, which we are using these days. The method required anesthetics to learn to insert the tubes into the trachea to allow mechanical ventilation of the lung, to preserve the gas exchange, and consequently to control the breathing. In the early 1980s, there were actually only two basic ways to maintain the airway. One was the use of face mask, and the other one was the tracheal tube. For shorter procedures and difficult airways, Archie Brain thought to design something to ease the problem. So what he did, he made plaster casts of the actual specimens of larynx. Then he used the rubber Goldman cuff to design it. He took up a tracheal tube and then cut it and made the LMA, which we know today. So he was credited for the introduction of laryngeal mask airway in 1981. The revolution of new era began with the introduction of this airway only. The modern anesthesia machines, pulse oximetry, capnography, patient control analgesia, All the elements of the modern anesthesia were in place by 1950. Nowadays, complicated surgeries can be performed with ease due to the advancements in anesthesia. The new equipments and the better facilities have paved the way for a safer anesthesia practice. As the complementary fields of surgery and anesthesiology have matured, new skills are required by the anesthesiologist, including the expertise to handle resuscitation, airway management, oxygen transport, operative stress reduction, and post-operative pain control in intensive care. The advances include everything from sterile syringes, disposable syringes, and needles to computer-controlled anesthetic machines, electronic monitors, which are providing a battery of information on both the patient physiology and proper functioning of the equipment. Today, the personnel from the anesthesiology department are scattered in several locations throughout the hospital, from the ambulatory care center to the intensive care unit. The scope of anesthesia has undergone gradual metamorphosis to sophisticated state that we are using today. So let's thank all the pioneers and ancestors of the anesthesia for teaching us and providing a safe anesthesia environment with time. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Devika. And congratulations to you. You have covered almost all the important aspects of history of anesthesia. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, but being a chairman, I am also supposed to speak something. So,
Good guide.
so first of all, I wish all of you happy World Anesthesia Day in advance. As Dr. Devika has told, on 16th October 1846, first successful public demonstration of ether administration was done by Thomas Green. Thomas Green Morton was not an anesthetist, he was dentist. This was not a sudden and spontaneous event. Rather, this was a result of many independent observations combined with change in attitude in mankind, in science in general. Why change in attitude? Reason being, if we see 100 years prior to this date, that period we can term as a pre-anesthetic era. Because during this period, many scientists introduced new ideas that were to have profound effect in later practice, clinical practice of anesthesia. Like even oxygen was discovered in 1771 during this period, and nitrous oxide was also discovered in 1772 by John Priestley. So during those 100 years, many changes came which caused change in attitude of mankind, and we came to the events which occurred on 16th October 1846. We have given full credit to Thomas Green Morton and recognized him as a founder of modern anesthesia. But if we see the history, Sir Crawford Williamson used ether first of all. He used it in 9 patients in 1842, and he used towel to administer anesthesia. Patients were subjected to inhale ether through towel on which ether was poured. And Thomas Green Morton used glass with bottle. It was a draw-in vaporizer with sponge wicks. So we have come from towel. Our initial anesthesia machine was towel. Then we came to glass bottle, and now we have computerized, sophisticated workstations. The development of anesthetic operators cannot be an isolated subject. It is inextricably linked with the development of specialty as a whole. Each refinement in the design of anesthetic apparatus in the early years was either reflected introduction of new anesthetic agent or a desire to improve quality of anesthesia administered. And then coming on to some facts in India. India is not far behind. World Anesthesia Day is on 16th October 1846. In India, first time ether was administered on 22nd March of 1847. And chloroform was administered first time in India on 12th January of 1848. So chloroform became more popular at that time, reason being it was easily available and inexpensive. Even Mahatma Gandhi ji, he underwent appendectomy in 1925 and was administered open drop chloroform anesthesia. And during procedure, electricity failed, batteries were arranged, batteries got fused, and the whole procedure was completed with kerosene lamp. So this is the how our specialty has evolved. And now, whatever monitors we have, whatever equipment we have, remember ISA logo. It is always written eternal vigilance. Eternal vigilance is the most important. It is a key to administer safe and good quality anesthesia. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, your special few words to the young anesthesiologist, as mostly there are PGs in this and on this World Anesthesia Day. A few words from your side.
Hello.
And yes, sir, Dr. Avtar Singh, sir, yes.
Is this question for me?
Yes, sir, you can next. Yes, sir, it was for yes.
Was it for Dr. Katyal?
No, so as Dr. Katyal has said few words, so I wanted you also to say a few words for the young anesthesiologists, on particularly for this World Anesthesia Day, some message from your side and Dr. Kaul sir's side.
I think Dr. Katyal has spoken very well and given all what is required to be done. But I will say the anesthesia right from the day 1, 1846, till today has made tremendous developments. And let you know that our generation has gone through all the stress of evolution of anesthesia, having gone from Schimmelbusch mask, open drop ether method to coping up with the latest work anesthesia stations was really a bit of a, I will admit that it is a bit of a stress, but probably for your generation, it is not, because you started from here. Number 2, but the basic component of anesthesia remain the same. Whatever. These methods have improved delivery of the gases. These methods have improved monitoring of the patient. These methods have improved the safety of the method. But the crux of the basis of the anesthesia, like the profound analgesia, sedation, and loss of consciousness and loss of awareness, will remain the same irrespective of wherever we go. So those things have to be kept in mind, because now the balance anesthesia techniques have come. We could be misled by, like, we are giving relaxant, but maybe we are inadequately providing the analgesia to the patient, which can lead to the awareness and the consequence. So primarily, we must keep in mind that all the component of anesthesia has to be properly attended to and delivered to the patient, so that we are able to deliver a safer anesthesia and a pain-free anesthesia. That's what I will say to the people, and best of luck to everyone, and happy World Anesthesia Day to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Kaul sir, Dr. Tej K. Kaul sir. So, yes, sir.
Sir is there.
Sir is there, but sir, please unmute yourself, sir. I think
Dr. Tanvir, I think sir is
Yes.
not responding. We'll take the words of wisdom from sir as the celebrations progress. So I think the fun part begins with the due permission from the respected patrons of the society.
Asking me to speak, but there is hardly anything more.
Sir is there, I guess.
Sir is there.
Dr. Tejke Kaul, sir, are you there, sir? I'll make him a call. In the meantime, I think Dr. Preeti Gehlot is there for, she has something to present. So, Dr. Tanvir, please.
Yes, sir. So after these two academic sessions, we have a small cultural program for, with a few poems and a few.
Dr.
Yes, sir.
Tanvir, I want to say one point.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Important part of history of anesthesia. How anesthesia word was involved.
Yes, sir.
Anesthesia came from Greek word by Oliver Wendell Holmes. It means aesthesia is sensations, anesthesia without sensations. That is the meaning of anesthesia.
Okay. That's really enlightening, sir. We have been using this word day and night, but we still don't know what its meaning is. So thanks for making it clear to. And I think majority of us would not be knowing this, what anesthesia means actually, how the word came. So first we have Dr. Preeti Gehlot. She has a poem from about anesthesiologists as soldiers. Dr. Preeti ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, all respected teachers, dear colleagues, and students who've joined here. And first of all, I would like to wish everyone a very happy World Anesthesia Day. And we as anesthesiologists, we play many roles every day. The first and foremost is of perioperative physicians, of pain specialists, which is very important. We are also a guardian to our patients while they are asleep. And above all, we've also played the role of soldier many, many times. And it was clearly evident to the society also this time when COVID came. So I'll be speaking a bit on this aspect. And one more thing, the underlining thing is that we love our role, whatever it may be. We love being anesthesiologists, all of us. So I would have given the credits, but the author is unknown. It's not my poem. I'll just start reading it, and I quote now. We are like soldiers on the front. On our solid shoulders, we bear all the brunt. As we give the medication through the patient's veins, we take away his anxiety, agony, and pain. As the cardiac monitor beeps and the patient calmly sleeps, we keep a watch on his BP and heart rate. We are very alert as we ventilate. In fact, we have 8 arms like an octopus. I always say that to my PGs also, that you should develop 8 arms like an octopus, or maybe Ma Durga. We do all essential jobs in OT and ICU without any fuss. We are mentally very strong, especially when things go wrong. When there's a massive bleeding, anesthesiologist is always leading. Though our job is tiring and taxing, but we surely make the surgery relaxing. Ours is an emergency branch, dealing with highs and lows. So you would find us always on our toes. All of us love this challenging subject. Through it, a lot of satisfaction we get. At the end of the surgery, when the patient smiles and the surgeon says a polite thank you, we fall in love again with anesthesia and all that we do. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Really nice poem. And as anesthesiologists, we all feel proud after listening to such poems, though we don't know who has written it, but credit to you also for reciting it so nicely. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we have Dr. Aanchal Garg, who has a poem about anesthesiologists, again in Hindi. Dr. Aanchal, can you unmute yourself? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Aanchal Garg, and now on this World Anesthesia Day, I would like to present a poem on anesthesiologist. यूं डॉक्टर्स के भीड़ में छिपसा जाता हूँ, यूं डॉक्टर्स की भीड़ में छिपसा जाता हूँ, पर हार जाते हैं सब जहां वहां नजर में आता हूँ, पर हार जाते हैं सब जहां वहां नजर में आता हूँ। मेरा खुद का कोई ज्यादा नाम नहीं, मेरा खुद का कोई ज्यादा नाम नहीं, पर ये ना सोचना मेरा कोई जरूरी काम नहीं। मैं सिर्फ बेहोश करने वाला ही नहीं, बेहोशी से उठाने वाला भी हूँ, ओटी से बाहर सही सलामत लाने वाला भी हूँ। मैं शायद अस्पताल की पहचान नहीं, मैं शायद अस्पताल की पहचान नहीं, पर ये ना सोचना मैं अस्पताल की शान नहीं। मेरी बदौलत ही आईसीयू, ओटी और रिकवरी है, मेरी बदौलत ही होती हर सर्जरी है, मेरी बदौलत ही आईसीयू, ओटी और रिकवरी है, मेरी बदौलत ही होती हर सर्जरी है। जब पेशेंट बेहोश होता है मैं उसका होश बन के खड़ता हूँ, जब पेशेंट बेहोश होता है मैं उसका होश बन के खड़ता हूँ। वो जो जिंदगी मौत के बीच का अंतर है ना, मैं उसके लिए ही लड़ता हूँ। इस सब के बाद भी मैं पेशेंट को अपना नहीं कहता, इस सब के बाद भी मैं पेशेंट को अपना नहीं कहता। मैंने किया क्या है कुछ दिनों के बाद शायद उसे भी याद नहीं रहता, पर अब इन बातों का मुझे होता नहीं एहसास, पर अब इन बातों का मुझे होता नहीं एहसास। अब मैं समझ चुका हूँ क्यों है मेरी ब्रांच कुछ खास। थैंक यू एवरीवन।
Very nicely written, Dr. Aanchal. Thank you, and I hope everybody has enjoyed listening to this poem. Dr. Tej K. Kaul sir has joined back, and I would request Dr. Tej K. Kaul sir to say a few words for us on this World Anesthesia Day.
Tanveer, thank you. I was always there. I don't know whether you are hearing me now or not.
Yes, sir, you are audible, sir. In between the, we could see your
Earlier
picture.
also I was there, but somehow the
Yes.
voice was not good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right.
Excellent program.
Thanks.
By the budding anesthesiologists. They need to be trained to learn, to guide, and to teach. And that is what has been done by Dr. Anju and you with these speakers. They have done an excellent job. And about the history of anesthesia, I have nothing more to say than what the stalwarts, Dr. Katyal and Dr. Avatar Singh has spoken. We can speak for many, many hours, but I am not well today to speak it out. But hardly anything. Dr. Katyal and Dr. Avatar Singh, the two stalwarts, has mentioned everything. Nothing is left out. So all the best. God bless you all. Best wishes.
Thank you, sir, and best wishes for your health, sir. And now I would request Dr. Chand to, he has few motivational quotes which he would like to say on this day. Dr. Chand, please.
Hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible and your screen is visible.
Hello, sir. Very good evening to all respected doctors. As we all know, we are here to celebrate World Anesthesia Day. I, Dr. Chand, presenting some funny quotes about our department. So what is anesthesia? It is a precious gift of unconsciousness and mystery of consciousness. This slide shows the importance of anesthesiologists in primitive times as well, right from the time when Shalya Chikitsa was begun. As the evolution of human being begin side by side, evolution of anesthesia is synced with the surgery. So we can say that monkey to man, mystery to history. Uh, Many people considered it as knocking it down, but we all know that it is much more than that. So OTs belong to anesthesiologist. I may be wrong, but I highly doubt it. I am an anesthesiologist. This is flattering to another level. Raise your hand if you love an anesthesiologist. If not, you should raise your standard. During the surgery, when is undergoing, don't worry, the anesthesiologist is here. The day will be saved shortly. We also have a role in chronic pain and critical care. So people also known us as the pain fighter, easing your pain, providing safety and well-being. So who is the anesthesiologist? The one who is cute enough to stop your heart, skilled enough to restart it. So keep calm and date an anesthesiologist. I and we proud to be an anesthesiologist. So in the last, I closed up with a Macintosh knot for the surgeon, spinal end with the injection of the agent. For the anesthetist, it begins with the injection of the agent. I'm very thankful to you all. Thank you so much. Happy World Anesthesia Day.
Thank you, Dr. Chand. Really inspiring quotes, and I think I will get a T-shirt with the quote that if you love an anesthesiologist, raise your hand, or else raise your standards. And I think I will distribute those T-shirts among my PGs so that they can go into the OTs and wear those shirts. Now I would request Dr. Anju Garewal, ma'am, to say a few words to the young anesthesiologists on this day.
Thank you, Tanveer. I think our young anesthesiologists have already, spoken so well, and that is where our future lies. And all that I have to say to them is that be proud of your specialty. You are a complete perioperative physician to your patient. Without you, no surgeon would dare go into any nook and corner of the human body, let alone, touch them. So that's where your power is, but use it judiciously. Use it in an empathetic manner, be honest and transparent to your patient. And there's just one more advice. Whenever you deal with your patient, treat the patient as if you would want yourself or your mother to be treated. That's what is always been the motto of our lives and should continue to serve the humanity with this. If you work, fame and money just follows you through. And on this particular day, I wish you all the best, and would be really proud to see you all join Research Society of Anesthesiology Clinical Pharmacology. Support us and support the bright journal, the Journal of Obstetric, the Journal of Anesthesiology Clinical Pharmacology, JOCP. Dr. Naveen Malhotra is going to get angry with me for that. But, it is something that we do.
I'm a big bulldog and watchdog, don't worry.
No, this is just on a lighter note. Would love all of you to join us and, not only be excellent clinicians to your patients, but also be good research, have a research fervor, which enhances not the journal itself, but also the research climate of our country and makes us stand proud as excellent anesthesiologists in the world. Thank you so much, and long live RSSCP.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, we have Jugaad in Anesthesia by Dr. Aditi. Dr. Aditi, can you please start? Dr. Aditi?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. Please just give me a second to share my slides.
Yeah.
Is it visible to everyone?
Yes, it's very visible.
Good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Aditi, postgraduate anesthesia from PGIMS Rohtak. Today, I'll be speaking up on jugards in anesthesia. Anesthesiologists have always been renowned for coming up with ingenious innovations. The high-stakes environment of an operation theater poses a challenge for us to act swiftly in the event of complications. This makes us adroit at utilizing whatever resources we have at our hands to manage the situation we are faced with. The basic knowledge of human anatomy and physiology, combined with the laws of physics, provides the perfect concoction for facilitating the jugards. Now, one such great example of these jugards is utilizing the IV set to measure the central venous pressure when the CVP manometer is not available. Now, this is one kind of jugard which we use every day in our ICUs and in our OTs when the facility is not available. Another big example is where we do piggybacking when we do not have a three-way with us. Now, this is a picture which shows the method of doing piggybacking when the three-way is not available with us. This creativity and imagination is best put at use when we are required to employ our skills in a resource-limited setting. This is exactly what happened with us during the pandemic also. When the whole ward was drowned in despair, the anesthesiologists promptly churned out myriads of jugards to work out their ways around various challenges posed by the pandemic. To limit the transmission of the virus during intubation, intubation boxes and video laryngoscopes were required. But we all know that video laryngoscopes are not available in all the facilities. So the anesthesiologists found out their own jugards. They made their own video laryngoscopes by fitting an endoscope with the regular laryngoscope with Macintosh blade. Now, this is a picture which shows attachment of endoscope with the normal Macintosh blade turning into a Jugardu video laryngoscope. There were innovations to enable us function through the PPE gear as well. When we could not hear our patients' chest conditions through the routine method of stethoscopy, the digital stethoscope came into the picture. The simple and reproducible design can help us monitor the condition of chest of our patients even through the PPE kits. This is the picture showing a Jugardu digital stethoscope. We also found ways to curb the problem of limited availability of oxygen beds. One flow meter was utilized for multiple patients by connecting the oxygen pipes with a three-way. So to conclude, our stream of work as an anesthesiologist gives us this brilliant opportunity to develop the skill called troubleshooting. We all should proudly say that every good anesthesiologist is also a good jugardist. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dr. Aditi. Thank you. So we can from now on call ourselves jugardists also. Thank you for that. And now I would request Dr. Naveen Malhotra, sir, President-elect, to say a few words. Dr. Naveen Malhotra, sir.
Yes, congratulations to all of you on the eve of World Anesthesia Day celebrations being organized by Research Society of Anesthesiology Clinical Pharmacology. And it's rightly said, well begun is half done. So we have begun in advance. And as Dr. Anju had said, the festivities will continue over the weekend. And yes, the future lies with our young physicians, young clinicians, wherein they should be given chance to come forward. Young consultants should take over. I'm happy Swati, Tanveer, Nishkarsh doing good job over the last few months for the association, ably supported by Mayank, Vijay Lakshmi, Dr. Palta, and others, and ably supervised and advised by Dr. Sethi, Dr. Rima Meena, Madam Anju Grewal, Madam Indrani Hemant Kumar, and blessings from Dr. Avtar Singh and Dr. Tej Kaul, Dr. S.P. Sharma sir. We should all keep on doing good work. The COVID pandemic has shown what we really are, and we should always rise to the challenges and keep on doing good work with full honesty, sincerity, and put in our best possible foot forward and do as hard work as possible for the patients. Because at the end of the day, we are doctors first and then office bearers or other things. So our prime responsibility is towards our patient, whether we see them in OT, ICU, pain clinics, neuro OTs, cardiac OTs, obstetric ICUs, obstetric OTs, and so on and so forth. So we should always daily do one thing, and that is do good to our patients. If we do good to our patients day in and day out, their blessings will take us forward, and the dilemmas in our life will be over quickly and sooner. I wish all of you a very happy and healthy life. May you all remain always healthy, free of COVID and other illness. Have a good physical fitness profile and do well in life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your words of wisdom. And now we have, I would request Dr. Swati for her presentation on Journey of Anesthesia Day. Dr. Swati, ma'am, please.
A very good evening to all respected teachers, mentors, colleagues, and residents. I'll just share my slides. Okay, so am I audible and my are my slides visible?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible and slides are visible.
Yeah. So on the behalf of Department of Anesthesiology and Critical Care at AIIMS Jodhpur, I wish everyone a very happy World Anesthesia Day 2021 on 16th October, and the festivities have already begun and will continue during this auspicious period which is going on. So history has been well discussed in the earlier event, so I'll just skip that on this presentation, and let's stop and celebrate. So the celebrations are totally in sync with the WFSA guidelines that they are celebrating the teamwork this year in 2021, and they mention stronger teams for better patient care. This is absolutely true, and they have given this handout to be shared on the social media. So let's stop and celebrate the work done by the residents, PG students, JRs, whatever we call them, throughout India, the trainees across the world. Let's recognize, appreciate, acknowledge, and respect the work they have been doing as the very important part of the team all the time, especially during the current pandemic days. So let's go through the WAD celebrations we are being arranging over the years at AIIMS Jodhpur as we celebrate our residents throughout the country. So under the leadership of Dr. Pradeep Bhatia sir, we have been actively involved on the social media with all the events which have been conducted by WFSA and other national societies. So these are all our residents, happy faces, working in OTs, having fun on stage during conferences, having cultural events, preparing for conferences, having excursions. And this is a very landmark photograph during one of the WFSA event a couple of years ago. So as was mentioned, Ma Durga Ka Avatar. So this photograph received a phenomenal response on social media. These are concept was developed by our residents and acknowledged by the World Federation of Society of Anesthesiologists in their annual report in 2019-20. This photograph was featured and it was acknowledged on social media also. And we had lots of behind the scenes fun while reaching up to this final product.
Wait. Start. Wait.
And last year in 2020, we celebrated World Anesthesia Day virtually with the family, and we arranged for a talent gala with the family of the anesthesiologists in our department, and it is available on YouTube. Search for Talent Gala and you will find it at the second number. Please do watch when you get time. And then we sensitized everyone during clinical grant rounds in our institute. A brief history of anesthesia was narrated to everyone. And we celebrated by the cake cutting and the release of a book on anesthesia history, which was prepared with the courtesy of Wood Library Museum in the US. We got permission from them. And the purpose of this book was to sensitize the PG students about the glorious anesthesia history. And being a new department, we don't have old instruments. So this was having a pictorial description of all the historical equipment and drugs so that they can learn about our glorious past. And on one of the events, the release of the ebook was done. And we do have a hard copy in our department. If you are visiting us, please do have a look. So this is the book from the inside. And I must say to all the residents across the country that we are so incredibly proud of you. And at last, that form is filled from my side. We love our team because together we sail through anything and everything. We save lives in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swati ma'am. Now, and last but not least, we have one more poem from Dr. Preeti Gehlot. Ma'am, it is based on for safety of our patients. Dr. Preeti ma'am.
Thank you, sir. So I'm back again, Dr. Preeti Gehlot. I'm Associate Professor at PGMS Rohtak. Our work involves a lot of emotions, be it thrill, a lot of boredom also, a lot of challenges, and a lot of satisfaction as well. But whatever we do, our priority remains our patient safety. And I believe that whenever we go to OT and start putting our patients to sleep, our heart somewhere sends out a small prayer, unknowingly or knowingly, to the God. So what does this prayer look like? I'll read it out to everyone. I think this is what we all feel when we put our patients to sleep. Now I lay them down to sleep and pray this promise I can keep. This is an anesthesiologist speaking to God, probably knowing or unknowingly, like I said. A scholar's mind, a steady hand, a caring heart, a careful plan, a calm approach, a level head, a practice skilled by knowledge led, a selfless pride in what I do, a trust in me, a faith in you. With awe, I face the charge that meets me, humbled by the stakes so great. Each one sleeping trusts me completely, hoping for a protected fate. Teach me, lead me, stay beside me. Let your wisdom ever guide me. There's a promise I must keep as I lay them to sleep. Thank you.
That was really nice, ma'am. Thank you. So that was the last presentation, and I think if nobody else is, if anybody else wants to say anything, you are most welcome. Anybody wants to sing a song or any more poems? Volunteers? Dr. Rakesh, sir, I think. Dr. Rakesh, sir?
Yeah, just I want to give heartiest wishes to everybody on World Anesthesia Day, and it also a World Restart a Heart Day. So heartiest best wishes to everyone. And I think all the youngsters are doing wonderful work. It's a nice session. Heartiest wishes to RSSCP Ludhiana also for making such a nice program. So thank you, and thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So, with this, I would like to propose a vote of thanks. And it's a matter of pride for me that I am proposing a vote of thanks for this academic fiesta. First of all, thanks to Almighty for making today's webinar a resounding success. I, on behalf of RSSCP Ludhiana branch, extend my sincere thanks to our patron, Dr. Tej K. Kaul, sir, who is the backbone of the society. Thank you, sir. And sincere thanks to our President, Dr. Indrani ma'am, President-elect Dr. Naveen Malhotra sir, Vice President Dr. Anju Grewal ma'am, Secretary Dr. Vishal Singla sir, Treasurer Dr. Sethi sir, Editor-in-Chief Dr. Pradeep Bhatia sir. And we have been fortunate enough to have renowned academic personalities as chairperson in today's webinar, Dr. Vivek sir, Dr. Avtar Singh sir, and Dr. Sunil Katyal sir. And sincere thanks to the speakers, Dr. Sandeep Kundra sir, the moderator, and Dr. Kamya, Dr. Khushbu, and Dr. Devika. And heartfelt gratitude to all the participants without whom this webinar could not have been success. Thank you all. Happy World Anesthesia Day in advance. Long live RSACP. Thank you.